talk about living things and how they need food. So everyone should be on page 58. And in this chapter, we will learn about how living things get food, how to trace a food chain, and how a food web and a food chain are related. All right, page 59. What do you remember most about the film about African animals? Asked Mrs. Purcell. Some students mentioned the lions and the cheetahs. Some mentioned the monkeys and the apes. Michael put his hand up. I like those animals that look like deer with long necks. The animals that Michael likes are called giraffes. Their names their name is from an African word that means a neck like a giraffe. Both giraffes and giraffes use their long necks to reach up and eat leaves. All living things need food, but they get food in different ways. How do animals get food? How do plants get food? In this chapter, you will find out more about food and why it's so important to all living things. All right, lesson 1. Can I get Timothy to read page 60 clearly?
An old lion silently roams the plains in southern Africa. He has not eaten for more than 2 weeks. He is growing weaker every day. The lion slowly makes his way to a water hole and lies down on the bank. In a few hours, he is dead.
Let me stop you right there. So why do you all think he's dead? Raise your hand, Atala.
Because he didn't eat.
Good, because he didn't eat. That was the answer that I was looking for.
I was about to say because he didn't eat in 2 weeks.
Well, the fact that he didn't eat is basically what she said. Now, without food, all living things die. If you all don't eat, you start to feel sick, right? You may have a headache, you don't feel as energetic,
Like
and you feel just lethargic.
you're lazy.
Yeah. So you have to have food to live because food provides energy for you to get up and move about and carry on. So page 60 says, without food, all living things die. That is because food provides the energy needed for all life processes. For example, plants and animals use the energy that they get from food to grow, reproduce, and to repair cells in their bodies. Unlike animals, plants do not have to find food to stay alive. They make it using energy from the sun. Plants which produce their own food are called
Producers.
Good job. The picture shows some producers. Now, plants that produce their own food are called what, class?
Producers.
Good. And they produce food by energy from the sun. And down here at the bottom of page 60, it shows you a few of the plants that are considered producers. And what are the plants in those pictures?
Apples.
Apples?
Carrots.
Grapes? Where do you see carrots?
Cactuses.
That's a cactus.
Apples. Flowers. Are those flowers?
Mm-hmm.
Cows eating grass.
All right.
No, they're not eating.
Now, let's look at page 61. People depend on producers because they make food that we eat. You see the apples, you see the grapes, and so on and so forth. So we depend on these things. Like, let's talk about food makers. People, like all animals, depend on producers for food. Look at the picture of the students eating lunch. They each have a peanut butter sandwich, some carrots, and milk. The peanut butter came from a producer, a peanut plant. The carrots are the roots of a carrot plant, another producer. The milk came from a cow that ate grass and hay. Grass and hay, like all other kinds of plants, are producers. Since they cannot make their own food, Producers do not have to depend on any other living thing for food. None of the other living things on Earth can make their own food. For that reason, all of the other living things on Earth depend on
Producer.
good job. You all should be following me. Good job, Timothy. Alright, so we depend on who?
Food.
No, we depend on
Producers.
producers for
Food.
good job. Alright.
You said it back.
Now, let's look at page 62. Look at the think zone. What would happen to people if there was no such thing as chlorophyll? Now, mind you, chlorophyll is needed by the producers to make food. So if we didn't have chlorophyll, they couldn't make food, right? So what would happen to us? We wouldn't have any food, right? Good job. Let's look at page 62. How plants make food. The leaves of a plant contain a special green substance called
chlorophyll.
Good job. Plants use
Chlorophyll
to collect the sun's energy for making food. They do this by a special process called, can you tell me what that word is? Timothy.
photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis. Repeat that. Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis.
One more time.
Photosynthesis.
Good job. The drawing shows what happens in a plant during photosynthesis. The food and oxygen are produced or used by animals. So step 1, waters and minerals enter through the roots. That's at the bottom of the plant. Step 2, water and minerals travel the leaves through the stems. Alright? Step 3, chlorophyll traps sunlight. Carbon dioxide enters the leaves from air. Step 4, food and oxygen are made. Some of the food is used, some of it is stored. And step 5, oxygen leaves the plant through tiny holes under the leaves. So this is the process of photosynthesis. And this is what they do to make food. Any questions thus far?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, really quickly, let's look at the lesson checkup. Why? Who can tell me why? And raise your hand. And think about this before you raise your hand. Why is a tree called a producer? Have you thought about the answer? Okay.
Because trees produce other produces their own food.
Yes. But someone give me a little more detail, Amira.
Because trees make their own food.
They make their own food doing what? How do they do this?
By using the sun so they can have energy.
And what's that process called, Timothy?
Chlorophyll.
No, the process called photosynthesis. So a tree is a producer because it makes its own food, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good job. Number 2. Name 3 things plants need in order to make food. 3 things. Think about it. Think about it before you raise your hand. I want all 3 things that plants need to make food. Alright. Timothy.
They need water, sunlight, and energy.
Energy.
From the sun.
They need water. They need sunlight. Amira.
Water, sunlight, and chlorophyll.
Chlorophyll.
Oh.
Good. Anything else? Ashaki.
Soil.
I was looking for something else.
Atala.
Produce. No. Amira. Photosynthesis. Alright. Number 3. Trace all the items in a sausage pizza back to its producers. So if we have a sausage pizza, What are some of the things that we'd have on that pizza?
Sausage.
What does the sausage come from?
It comes from the cow.
No. Where does sausage come from?
Pig.
Yes, it comes from a pig. All right. What else is on a pizza? A towel.
Cheese.
And where does cheese come from?
Cow.
Good. Cow's what?
Cow. That milk.
A cow's milk. All right. What else is on a pizza?
Dough.
I'm looking for something before we get to dough.
Tomato sauce.
The pizza sauce, and that comes from.
Tomatoes.
And tomatoes come from.
Plants.
Right. So the tomato plant.
What about pepperoni?
We're talking about a sausage pizza.
Then
Think about what we're talking about. And what about the dough? It comes from
the flour.
flour. Good job. All right.
I didn't know dough comes from flour.
Yes, that's how they make the dough.
Yeah, like this.
All right. So just to review, plants which produce their own food are called what? I'm listening.
Photosynthesis.
No, listen closely before you start blurting out answers. Plants that produce their own food are called what, Atala? No. Producers. You all need to listen instead of just trying to be the first one to answer. You're not giving me correct answers, which tells me that you're not listening, nor are you thinking. All right. Again, plants that produce their own food are called producers. And people, like all animals, depend on producers for what? Food. Good job. And plants make food through a process called photosynthesis. Good. All right.